When it comes to places we still don't fully understand, the Amazon rainforest is near the top of the list. Despite the rapid destruction along its borders, it remains one of the world's most mysterious places. And within this rainforest, there are monsters, coming in all shapes, sizes, and levels of deadliness. With that in mind, here are 20 of the largest Amazon monsters ever discovered. Number 20. The green iguana. Now at first you may think that the green iguana doesn't belong on a list of monsters from the Amazon, but as in all things, there are ways for something harmless to become quite harmful. In this case, while the green iguana is known for being non-aggressive and something that many people will keep as a pet, it is also one of the worst invasive species in North and South America. You may remember that Florida is a nesting ground for all sorts of invasive species due to people bringing in exotic animals and then simply letting them loose, and the green iguana was one of those animals. Once released, these reptiles thrived in Florida's warm climate, reproducing at alarming rates with few natural predators to keep their numbers in check. They dig extensive burrows that weaken seawalls, sidewalks, and building foundations, causing millions of dollars in property damage. Homeowners have reported waking up to find entire gardens stripped bare overnight, plants devoured down to the stems. In some neighborhoods, iguanas have been spotted basking on rooftops, swimming in canals, and even falling from trees during cold snaps. Their presence also disrupts local ecosystems, as they compete with native wildlife for food and nesting space. Farmers have complained about crop losses, while city officials struggle to manage exploding populations in urban areas. What began as a novelty pet slowly transformed into an ecological and economic nightmare. It's a perfect example of how a seemingly harmless animal can become a serious problem when removed from its natural environment. It's so invasive in Florida that there are jobs where you literally go around and delicately put an iguana out of its existence so that they can't repopulate. Think about that for a moment. Oh, and if you think it's not real, it was actually on an episode of Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe. Number 19. Green anaconda. So what kind of monster should I continue with? Well, it's hard to go wrong with a snake. I mean, after all, Indiana Jones can't seem to stand them, so why should other people? Plus, this isn't just a regular snake that I'm going to be talking about. It is the massive green anaconda, one of the biggest snakes in the world, and it is, in fact, the largest and heaviest snake in the world regarding body mass. By that, I refer to how this snake can sometimes be over 7 meters long and weigh around 277 kilograms at times. The irony here is that many of those measurements for the green anaconda are based on ones that have been caught and measured, so it's possible that there are those out there that are even bigger, longer, and heavier just waiting to be found. But what makes them so monstrous is that they are apex predators, meaning that they have no natural predators that they have to fear, and that means that they can feast on just about anything that they want. And when they do, it is not pretty at all. You see, these are the kind of snakes that love to swallow their prey whole, and they're more than capable of doing that even if the prey that they're after is much larger than their mouths can fit in. Now, they'll just dislocate their jaw and force the food inside. And so, if you were to ever find one of these in the Amazon and it has a huge bulge in its stomach, that means that it's recently eaten and it is very slowly digesting its food. Another thing that makes it monstrous is that it can exist pretty much anywhere, on land, in nearby rivers, and it can even climb trees to get its food. For this snake, nothing is out of reach. The good news is that they don't eat humans, so even if you went to the Amazon right now, you wouldn't have to fear this snake unless you gave it a reason to attack you. Number 18. Giant armadillo. Now, if you are one to freak out over a giant armadillo, then you must really be scared. I mean, a giant armadillo, it's not really something to be freaking out about on the regular. So then why is it on this list? Well, that's because it has giant in the title. We do need higher standards for monsters here. How big is this armadillo? Well, it can get to 100 centimeters in length and weigh up to 54 kilograms, so it is a big boy. In the wild, encountering one unexpectedly can still be an unsettling experience, especially at night when they are most active. Their thick, armored shell reflects light in an eerie way, making them look more like living tanks than animals. They move quietly despite their size, emerging from the darkness with slow, deliberate steps. When threatened, they can rear up on their hind legs, using their massive claws as both tools and weapons. Those claws are powerful enough to tear open hardened termite mounds and even break through compacted soil with ease. Their burrows are enormous, sometimes large enough for a human to crawl into, and abandoned tunnels are often reused by other animals. In some regions, locals tell stories of stumbling across freshly dug holes overnight, evidence that a giant armadillo passed through while they slept. Though generally shy, they will stand their ground if cornered, making them far more imposing up close. Their sheer strength and endurance give them an almost prehistoric presence. It's not fear that follows them through the forest, but a deep sense of respect. But again, it's not exactly one that you should immediately fear just because it's big. The case in point, the giant armadillo prefers termites and some ants as its prey, and it often consumes the entire population of a termite mound. So that makes it a bit more aggressive than the anteater, and so that should tell you something about its appetite and what it needs to actually feel full. Number 17. The giant river otter. We're going to switch gears here to talk about a creature that is honestly not so monstrous like many of the ones that I'll be discussing, but instead it was dubbed a monster by humanity, and as a result, it's actually close to extinction. I'm talking about the giant river otter, and yes, they are quite giant, as an adult can be up to 1.8 meters in length, making it the largest of the otter family. Yet they have a very refined social structure, and they're not as much of a threat as people think. But did that stop them from being hunted down? Well, no. There was a point where they were being hunted solely because they were nuisances, and then when they found out that the otter pelts were valuable, they hunted them in great numbers for that, and that's why they were eventually put on the endangered species list. Many feel that there are less than 5,000 of them left in the world today. Isn't that a tragedy? People simply didn't like these otters, and so they hunted them down and went further for profit. It's reasoning like that which may be the doom of our world if we're not careful in the future. Number 16. The harpy eagle. While birds may not be the biggest threats of the Amazon forest, it should be noted right off the bat that there are plenty of them out there to find if you know where to look. Many of them are simple exotic birds that are pretty to look at, and then there's the harpy eagle. This is one of the largest eagle species in the world and is yet another apex predator of the Amazon. They are able to fly around, swoop down, and get their prey with their talons before the creature even realizes what's happening to it. The large talons can exert several hundred kilograms of pressure and force, which can crush the bones of their prey and instantly kill them. These talons are roughly the same size as a grizzly bear's claws, giving you some idea of the raw power involved. Harpy eagles often hunt silently from high perches, watching the canopy below for the slightest movement. Sloths, monkeys, and large birds are common targets, plucked straight from the treetops in a single, violent motion. The attack is so fast that nearby animals often don't react until it's already over. Witnesses have described the sound of wings cutting through the air followed by an abrupt, chilling silence. Their massive wingspan allows them to maneuver through dense jungle with surprising agility. Once they seize prey, escape is virtually impossible due to the locking mechanism in their feet. They can carry animals nearly equal to their own body weight back to the nest. In indigenous folklore, the harpy eagle is sometimes regarded as a spirit of the forest, feared and respected in equal measure. Seeing one in the wild is considered both an honor and a warning. So yes, that's a thing that they can do. Now, what may surprise you the most is that they have rather long lives. They're said to live up to 35 years, meaning they're a constant and consistent threat in the Amazon. And no, humans don't really have to worry about them that much, but do you really want to take the risk? I surely would not recommend it. Now it's time for today's topic. In January 2026, a joint expedition by Brazilian researchers and local river guides reported a chilling discovery deep along the Jaguar River basin in western Amazonia. Drone footage captured an enormous serpent-like body moving against the current, leaving whirlpools where the river should have been calm. Villagers from Cruzeiro do Sul later described livestock found paralyzed but unmarked, suggesting a powerful neurotoxin. Biologists from Universidade Federal do Acre quietly collected water samples and confirmed traces of an unknown venom compound never recorded in South America. Officials avoided public statements, but the research camp was evacuated within 48 hours. Satellite images later showed the same massive shape-changing river channels overnight. Locals now refuse to fish the area, saying the forest has gone silent, and whatever evolved there is still moving. Number 15. The giant anteater. Well, I'm sure that something as small as an ant would view the giant anteater as a monster, but should humans do the same? Well, it depends on how you want to define the monsters that you fear. For example, the giant anteater is indeed a giant among its kin, and it's said to be the size of a golden retriever. What might freak you out is that it has a sense of smell that not only dwarfs the humans, but it actually puts it to shame. Now, it's 40 times more powerful than the average human nose, and that's why it's able to find all of those ant hills that it just loves to snack on. It can detect insects buried deep underground or hidden inside hardened termite mounds without ever seeing them. This ability allows the anteater to roam vast territories with eerie confidence, guided almost entirely by scent. When it locates a nest, it uses its massive claws to rip open concrete hard structures in seconds. Its long, sticky tongue then flicks in and out at lightning speed, capturing thousands of ants in moments. Observers have clocked the tongue moving up to 150 times per minute, which is astonishing to witness. Despite its awkward appearance, the giant anteater can move surprisingly fast when it wants to. If threatened, it can rear up on its hind legs and use its claws defensively. Those claws are strong enough to tear apart logs and have even injured large predators. Jaguars have been known to think twice before attacking a fully grown anteater. In the wild, size and strange adaptations often matter more than aggression alone. A unique twist in all of this is that it won't just go to town and snack on the colony forever. These creatures are actually vulnerable to ant bites, so it may eat for about a minute while it has the element of surprise and then it simply moves on. Number 14. The electric eel. Next up is another classic river monster that is both an incredible threat and yet one that may not be as dangerous as you would expect. The electric eel absolutely lives up to its name regarding its ability. Within its body are special organs that can build up an electrical charge that can be released at 650 volts. And for the record, that's more than the wall socket you likely have in your house. And some even claim that they can get to over 800 volts in that discharge. It's shocking, I know, but I'll ask you the question. Is this a deadly jolt? Well, it kind of depends on the circumstances. This eel, that is not actually an eel, uses the water to help amplify the electrical charge to either stun or potentially kill its prey or predators. So does that mean that it can kill a human? Well, not necessarily. It won't even attack a human unless it's provoked, and even then, unless you're fully submerged in the water and in poor health or something, the worst that you're likely to get is just a good shock, if not being stunned for a moment. Talk about a bolt from the blue, right? Number 13. Red-bellied piranha. You were probably waiting for piranhas to show up. I mean, after all, when it comes to river monsters that live in the Amazon waters, what's more dangerous than a piranha? You've seen them in movies and TV, and they're often depicted in a really harsh light. You may be surprised, though. I mean, after all, while piranhas are dangerous and can absolutely be scary when you see a swarm of them in the water, ones like the red-bellied piranha are not exactly something you have to fear on a regular basis. For example, while they are aggressive at times when it comes to eating, they're actually omnivores and not carnivores. To that end, they are quite fine with eating plants versus going after any kind of meat, which is probably not what you expected. But it gets even more weird than that. You see, not only do they not go after meat all the time, they've been dubbed the vultures of the water, meaning that they're actually more akin to being a scavenger than full-on ravenous hunters. Adding to all of that is the fact that they only tend to go after animals that are already dead or dying. That way, they can just get the meal without having to be interrupted or losing it. And if you still want more, while movies do love to show piranhas in massive groups that can devour things in an instant, like people down to the bone, they actually don't eat as a pack. The red-bellied piranha only uses their groups to fend off predators. But that's the thing about nature and pop culture. It's not meant to go hand in hand. There are a lot of people who have exaggerated the nature and stylings of the piranha for a long time now, not unlike with sharks. And as such, people will fear them when they should only be somewhat cautious. Yes, you do not want to antagonize a piranha, of course, but you also don't need to be on the lookout or peering over your shoulder or into the water and expecting them to jump into your boat and eat you alive. Number 12. The giant stingray. Here's a creature that is definitely monstrous in size and could be a danger to humans if you're not careful. But in general, the giant stingray is one that merely wants to be left alone as it wanders through rivers and other bodies of water. The biggest one ever caught was not actually in South America. It was in Asia, and it was a 4-meter-long stingray that weighed over 300 kilograms, which is really big. So you can just imagine how long the stinger is. And to be clear, yes, the stinger is something you should fear, and it does have toxins that can hurt a human. But they aren't aggressive creatures, so if you don't mess with them, you'll have no reason to think about it stinging you. And so the lesson here is, be smart and you should be fine until you do something stupid, and then that stinger is going to go right through you, including potentially through your bones. Number 11. The tapir. Next up is a creature that I'm not sure I would actually call a monster, but it is something that you should look out for just to be on the safe side. The tapir is a creature that's been around for millions of years, and to that end, it hasn't really changed much during that time. That makes it a primitive creature due to how it's not evolved, unlike most animals on Earth. That all being said, you should not mock this creature, because it is quite long and heavy. It can be over 2 meters in length and weigh over 400 kilograms, so yes, it definitely has mass. Despite its bulky build, the tapir is surprisingly agile when moving through dense jungle undergrowth. It can slip silently into rivers and lakes, where it becomes an excellent swimmer. In fact, water is one of its favorite escape routes when danger approaches. Its flexible, trunk-like snout allows it to grab leaves, fruit, and aquatic plants with remarkable precision. This odd-looking nose also helps it breathe while most of its body is submerged. Tapirs are mostly nocturnal, which makes encounters with them rare and often startling. When surprised at close range, they can charge suddenly, using their weight as a weapon. Locals who know the rainforest well treat tapirs with caution rather than fear. A startled tapir in thick vegetation can easily knock a human off balance. For an animal that looks calm and almost comical, it commands a surprising amount of respect. And while they're often the victims of local predators, which includes big cats and crocs, they have really tough hides and have a bite that can ward them off if they're able to get a good shot or two in. They may be primitive, but they know how to survive and are actually key parts in the survival of the rainforest ecosystem. Number 10. The capybara. Now, if you're somebody who goes around calling the capybara a monster, you really need to have your humanity checked. I mean, yeah, they are rodents, cool kind of rodent you can actually keep one as a pet. Standing at 60 centimeters tall and looking like they know more than you with their classic expressions. The capybara is the largest rodent in the world today. Even New York City rats do not match up to this creature. Water is a source of life for the capybara, as they eat water plants and grasses and use the water itself to escape from danger. Plus, if they do feel threatened, they can be completely submerged in water for a few minutes without any issues until their predator gets bored and goes away. To show you how some people don't view them as monsters, capybaras are actually a popular exotic pet for people to try and own, and though you often need to buy two at once because they are social animals and they don't do well by themselves. Number 9. Kangaroo fish. I decided to do the kangaroo fish last because of a certain tale that it's often associated with. No, this is not a fake fish that somebody made up. It is a very real thing and it can be very, very dangerous to certain creatures. That's because it is a parasitic type of fish. They'll latch on to things like fish through their gills and then literally feast upon their blood. The irony is that this is not only proven, but they have ways of making that happen due to their somewhat small size. They can grow as large as 40 centimeters, but they can also be much smaller than that, which will allow their frames to literally worm into host bodies so that they can do their thing. That alone is monstrous, but it's not actually why we're here. The reason that the fish is on this list is due to a local legend where, apparently, these fish were infecting humans by going up through the male reproductive channel, if you catch my drift. Allegedly, they would ride the stream from their urine as they went in the river and then get into their organ until they were fully inside the body. The legend became so mainstream that people began to fear this fish more than any other predator. However, there have actually never been any confirmed cases of this happening, so you probably shouldn't fear it happening to you. Plus, the idea of one riding the stream of someone's urine, well, let's just call that scientifically unlikely, shall we? Number 8. The spectacled bear. Surprise! There are actually bears in the Amazon rainforest, and the spectacled bear is actually the only native species to South America. So if you were to see one, you're seeing something rather unique. As you could imagine, people have mixed views on the spectacled bear due to how it is actually a bear. I mean, it's technically an omnivore and doesn't actively get aggressive towards people unless provoked, but that hasn't stopped people from hunting them out of fear that it may go after their cattle. Thankfully, some conservation efforts have been raised in order to protect this bear from being hunted down. Number 7. Arapaima. The arapaima is the largest freshwater fish in the entire world, and when you see one at its full length, it's around 3 meters long. So yes, the phrase "that's a big catch" would definitely apply to this fish if you were to get one. Its length is not what makes it a monster, though it definitely helps, but instead the reason that it's quite monstrous is because of its armor. That's right, this is an armored fish. Its scales have a mineralized hard outer layer with a corrugated surface, under which lie several layers of collagen fibers in some kind of arrangement. In other words, its scales can make its outer body as hard as plywood, if not harder. Yet despite having all that armor, it's incredibly flexible and able to move around in the water with ease. Curiously, despite it being a freshwater fish, it needs surface oxygen to survive, so it has to keep surfacing to breathe. Number 6. The Amazonian manatee. You probably didn't expect to see this kind of creature on the list. I mean, while few would call something like an Amazonian manatee a monster, you do have to admit that it's a rather large creature and something that has been known to attract the wrong kind of attention, which is why it's become endangered. Amazonian manatees occur throughout the Amazon basin in countries like Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Brazil. They live in freshwater oxbows, blackwater lakes, and lagoons, which all have deep connections to big rivers and plenty of aquatic vegetation. These creatures are the true definition of a gentle giant, and they wouldn't hurt anyone intentionally. However, humanity has hunted them down for quite a time, and that's why they're a vulnerable species today. Plus, it's hard to track their population numbers, and so nobody really knows how many of them are actually out there. Number 5. Jaguars. Now, it shouldn't be too much of a surprise that there is a big cat in the Amazon rainforest, or even several. I mean, after all, why wouldn't there be? The twist is that the jaguar is the only big cat in North and South America. No, mountain lions do not count. And just to put rankings in your head, the jaguar is the third biggest cat out there, only behind the lion and the tiger. But what really separates them from the two big cats above them is how they act and hunt. Unlike lions and tigers, they live a solitary life. They do not hunt in groups or even have a pride. And furthermore, they're more than capable of swimming and being good hunters in the water. Because of that, they have apex predator status in the Amazon, and they'll even go after other apex predators if they're feeling bold. Now, with their sleek bodies and powerful jaws, they can get to where they want to be quickly and dispatch with prey in only a few bites. In other words, you don't want to mess with one if you're unlucky enough to cross them. Number 4. The golden poison dart frog. Now, it's a very rare thing that we get to talk about frogs being dangerous, but even if you wish to get biblical and talk about certain plagues, well, that wasn't a deadly thing, it was just really annoying for the Egyptians. But as nature has a way, there is always something to be worried about with each species, and with the golden poison dart frog, aka the poison dart frog to most, this is a creature that you should never ever touch. Ever. The reason is that their bodies produce an incredibly deadly toxin that covers their entire skin, and that way, if predators even think about coming after them, the frog will get the last laugh by either touching them and poisoning them or allowing that poison to kill them from the inside out should they even dare to try and eat it. Curiously though, that toxin produced by the frog is so deadly that it's actually not known how the frog is immune to the toxin itself. More than likely, it evolved from some kind of immunity that ensures that it can emit it without being taken by its own self-defense mechanism. Now, as for why it's called the golden poison dart frog, that would be because the native people of Colombia learned about how deadly the toxin was and was able to kill the frog safely and then put the poison on the tips of their darts. As a result, they could take out prey of all types just by hitting them with the tip. That should further quantify how effective it is. So yeah, if you're ever at the Colombian side of the Amazon rainforest, don't even think about going and touching any golden frogs that you see, because if you avoid them, you may actually end up living longer. Number 3. The Goliath bird-eater tarantula. How is it that we've gone this long in this list and we're only just now getting to spiders? I mean, they're spiders, that makes them monsters by default, right? And the fact that I'm talking about the Goliath bird-eater tarantula makes me want to scream in terror because I now have to look at video footage of it. Yes, it is quite the large spider and the biggest spider in the world when it comes to mass, as it can be up to 13 centimeters and weigh about 6.2 ounces. But the irony of everything is that it honestly doesn't eat birds all that much. However, it has been spotted eating things like hummingbirds, so it's not out of their wheelhouse. Number 2. The black caiman. The Amazon is an absolutely perfect place for alligators and crocodiles to live in and thrive. Well, yes and no. Yes, it is the perfect place for them to dominate the local wildlife, but I'm technically not talking about either here. Instead, the black caiman is a crocodilian. The black caiman is the largest predator in the Amazon ecosystem, potentially capable of taking any animal within its range, and that also includes other predators. And just to be clear, I'm saying largest and not longest, because that would go to a certain snake that I talked about at the beginning of this video. But the fact that the caiman is so dangerous that it can take on anyone and anything within this massive rainforest should give you pause. Oh, and before you ask, yes, the black caiman is absolutely something that will go after a human and try to take them out of this world, and it has attacked humans in the past. What arguably makes it one of the most dangerous monsters on this list is the fact that it has a dark skin tone, which allows it to blend into the local waters. It also hunts at night, meaning that it'll camouflage perfectly with everything around it and can sneak up on its prey without them getting wise that there are dangers literally right beside them. Just as monstrous, while they are fine with catching all manner of food, they don't bite it to death as you would expect. Instead, they will grab it, drag it into the water, and let the prey drown before slowly consuming it, which is just a bit sadistic, really. No matter what time of the day, you should always be wary of the waters that the caiman exists in, because you'll likely never know where it is until it's simply too late. Number 1. The Amazon river dolphin. Now, you might think of dolphins as not living in a river, but there are plenty of them who do, and the Amazon river dolphin is the large one that resides in the Amazon's water. They are, in fact, over 2.4 meters in length and can sometimes be a rather pinkish color. Not something that you would expect from a dolphin, but there it is. The real monsters here are once again humanity, who have not been taking care of the rivers that these dolphins live in, and as a result, their population numbers are in decline. Efforts are being taken, though, to try and help them out. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.